everybody, how's it going, and welcome back to another video about Assassin's Creed. And today we're going to be talking about the Ezio trilogy and Assassin's Creed Empire and possible release dates for both, how they could fit into the coming year, E3 and things like that. So without further ado, let's hop into the video. So to start off, I am going to go with that if the Ezio Trilogy Remaster is real, it's not coming out this year. Some people think it'll come out this year. That doesn't really make sense for them to suddenly announce it and then release it straight away. Like, it's not a Ubisoft thing to do. They love hyping things up. So my thoughts are that they'll do what they do with some of their games. Now, we know that their main game next year will be Assassin's Creed Empire, supposedly. And that means it will come out around October, November time at the end of 2017. However, they normally get their other games, some things like Far Cry, The Division, Watch Dogs 1, things like that. They all came out in the early time, around March to June, and that was kind of the period that those games came out, and then their main games come out in the winter time. So, I mean, it's very, very possible that the Ezio Trilogy Remaster will come out earlier in the year than Empire later in the year, but for me, that doesn't really make sense. Like, it seems weird to me that they release Assassin's Creed early in the year than Assassin's Creed later in the year. Now, we've had a double release before in the past with Assassin's Creed Unity and with Assassin's Creed Rogue, so what I think will probably happen in terms of release date is they might pull, you know, the same kind of thing as Call of Duty have done, where they're releasing Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered at the same time. So I think what might happen is at the end of 2017, you know, around October, November time, we'll get Assassin's Creed Empire, and at the same time, we will get Assassin's Creed, the Ezio Trilogy Remastered. Now, I don't think it'll be exactly like Call of Duty have done, where you have to buy Empire to get the Trilogy Remastered. I think they'll be two separate games, kind of like Unity and Rogue. However, if you buy Empire, you might get, like, if you buy like a special edition of Empire, you might get the Ezio Trilogy Remastered for free kind of thing. If you pay, say, you know, cheaper, so like if you were to buy the two together, it's probably like 100, but if you buy, you know, a special edition of Empire that's like 75, then you get the Ezio Trilogy as well. So it's kind of like a bundle thing, but if you just want, you know, the Ezio Trilogy on its own, you can get that as well. I feel like that's something they do, kind of like Unity and Rogue. However, you couldn't buy Unity and Rogue together. Like, you know, I feel like they'll do something together though, and it makes more sense to me. They'll release them both at the same time at the end of the year. It also gives them time to hype it up by teasing it at the beginning of the year alongside Empire with possibly an event, something like that, kind of like what they did for Syndicate, or saving it for E3, and then they can actually show it at E3, because, you know, if they release it early on in the year, they haven't shown it this year's E3, they're not going to show it at next year's E3, because it'll already be out, so it doesn't make sense for them to do it before E3, it doesn't make sense for them to release it in, like, July, August time. It makes sense for it to come out normal release time alongside Empire, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Leave your comments down below, let me know what you guys think, but I think that makes sense. In terms of hyping it up, they'll probably end up showing it at the same time as Empire, stuff like that, and we'll get, you know, teasers of it and demos of it separately, kind of like what we got for Unity and Rogue. I don't know whether they'll leave it a while before announcing the Ezio Trilogy Remastered, or whether they'll do it at the same time as Empire. I think it'll probably be the same time as Empire, as opposed to what they did with Rogue, where they left it to, like, last minute, and they were like, oh, also there's Rogue, and then all of a sudden, like, that was another game that was on our radar. It was very, very strange the way they announced it. They did it very late in the year, which was really strange, considering Unity got leaked in about February, March time of 2014, and they didn't show anything of Rogue until, like, what was it, July, August time, which is very, very strange. But I don't think they'll do that with Empire and the Ezio Trilogy. I think we'll get stuff for the Ezio Trilogy at the same time as Empire, and we can be hyped for them both at the same time, and they'll both release at the exact same time at the end of the year in 2017. Now, another thing I want to talk about real quick in this video, since we're talking about release dates and things like that, is collector's editions. Now, I don't know what to expect for Empire. It could be anything, but in terms of the Ezio Trilogy collector's edition, which I really hope we can get some cool collector's editions, because I would pay anything to get an Ezio Trilogy Remastered collector's edition with, like, some really cool, like, statue things with, like, you know, all the Ezios, to get, like, I don't know, like, maps and lithographs and the fucking soundtracks and all that shit. Like, I would love that. They always do really cool stuff in the Assassin's Creed collector's editions. It's never just, you know, it's never dumb stuff. It's always really cool stuff that you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, we got a fucking music box in the Unity one. That was always really cool. Things like that are really, really awesome, and I hope they do a really cool collector's edition for the Ezio Trilogy Remastered. Now, personally, I kind of think the statues are always awesome. Like, having some really cool statues of all three Ezios, like, kind of together in some kind of cool way, that would be really, really awesome. And of course, with the Ezio Trilogy Remastered, I don't know whether they'll have even more bonus content or not. See, that's very strange, because I think with the Ezio Trilogy Remastered, they'll include every DLC that came out for the Ezio trilogy within the remaster itself. So if you buy the base game, you'll get every DLC. I think that's basically how it would work, because if they release DLC separately, once they've already released the DLC for the base game, that's kind of dumb. Because, you know, so I think they will release the DLC alongside the rest of the stuff within the game itself. The DLC will already be in there. So will they have extra bonus content that you can get for collector's editions? Like if you buy a collector's edition or a special edition, will there be even more bonus content that they've added into the remaster that was never even in the first game at all? I don't know. That's kind of a cool thing, because that would mean even newer Ezio trilogy stuff that's been developed in 2016. I think that would be really, really cool. So that could be something they'd include in the collector's edition, stuff like that. I'd pay for that, because more Ezio is always a good thing. But that's something that I possibly think they can include, and I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you want new DLC, or do you want it to be all just stuff that was in the original games? There's been a lot of talk about what games will be included in the Ezio trilogy remastered. Now, I do think, obviously, it's very clear that it's the Ezio trilogy, but there's been some confusion. Will we get Connor, and will we get Altair, Assassin's Creed 1? Now, personally, I think that Connor is out of the question. I don't think that makes sense to be in the collection. If they were going to include both of them, like all of that, it would just be called the Desmond collection. But since it's called the Ezio collection, I don't think it makes sense to include Connor. However, Altair is definitely a possibility. I think it makes way more sense for it to just be Ezio trilogy. However, I think it does make sense to include Altair, since his story is so impactful on Ezio's story, and it makes so much sense. He directly impacted Assassin's Creed 2 with the Codex pages and with the Apple and stuff like that. And then he was actually in Revelations, so his story is kind of very integral to the Ezio storyline. It's not completely important, but it is very integral to the storyline of Ezio. So I think it's very possible that they might include remastered Assassin's Creed 1 within the collection. I don't know if it's kind of like a thing that will happen, but it kind of makes sense that they might include it in the collection. I do think it's more likely to be just the Ezio trilogy, but then again, if they were to include anything else, Assassin's Creed 1 would make the most sense. In regards to multiplayer, these are all topics that I'm going to talk about more in depth in other videos, but I wanted to skim over everything quickly in this video since we're talking about release dates and stuff and inclusions. Multiplayer is another thing that people have been questioning. Will it be in the game? Now, I personally think if it's going to be in the game, it won't be the separate multiplayers. I think it'll be one big Assassin's Creed Ezio trilogy multiplayer. I think they'll remaster the multiplayer, they'll include all the maps from Brotherhood and Revelations, include some new ones, some new game modes, and it'll be this awesome multiplayer. And what it could be is them testing the return of multiplayer for Empire, or a future Assassin's Creed game, maybe the one after Empire. But if they do include multiplayer, which I don't know whether they will or not, but I think it could be likely, that it'll be a complete remaster, and it'll just be the Ezio trilogy remastered multiplayer, kind of like the Master Chief collection didn't have separate multiplayers. I had one big multiplayer that included everything. It will include the Brotherhood multiplayer, the Revelations multiplayer, combined together, remastered with some more extra cool stuff, and that's something that's really, really cool. I think that multiplayer will be awesome. Ezio trilogy, hands down, had the best multiplayer in Assassin's Creed, and I think it'd be awesome if they included it. I don't need it. I'm happy with just the single players, but if they included multiplayer, this is the one time that I'm like, yes, I would love that, because the nostalgia would be incredible. Going back to that multiplayer, hopping on there, doing live streams, playing with you guys, it's going to be awesome, because I always want to be part of the multiplayer community. When I used to watch like Esco, Luma, people like that playing the multiplayer with their community, I always wanted to be part of that. But of course, this was way back when I was a stupid little 13-year-old cunt, so I didn't really know what was going on. You know, I always want to be part of that community, and it gives me a chance again to be part of that community. It's the same with the whole Ezio trilogy thing. Is I feel like I'm back in 2009 to 2011, where I used to watch people like Esco and Luma, and I wanted to be part of that community, and now I am part of the community, and the Ezio trilogy is coming out again, and it's like I get to relive that, but be part of the community. It's really, really awesome, and I really hope this is all gonna happen. I hope it's real. I hope we get some multiplayer, so we can have an awesome community time playing the multiplayer, and it's gonna be fucking awesome. I'm so hyped for this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know there's some people that just hate this and they're like, fuck this, fuck Ezio, and it's like, just, you know, some people like Ezio. So if you don't like Ezio, if you don't want this, if you're annoyed that I'm excited for a character that everyone likes, just leave. You don't need to watch the video. You know, you can just go. You don't need to watch a video about a character you dislike. But if you do love Ezio, leave a like on this video, comment, let me know what you guys think. What inclusions do you want to see in the Ezio trilogy remastered, as well as Assassin's Creed Empire? What do you think about both their release dates and collector's editions? I'll touch over everything in later videos when we have a lot more actual solid information. I think that'd be a really good idea. But without further ado, guys, that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
The walls kept tumbling down, raining fire from above. Great charge over the hills, but these cities aren't enough. But if we turn and fight, does it almost feel like